All right, let's dive right in. If you've ever built a web app, you know there's that moment where the coding stops and the design has to begin. And man, that leap can feel absolutely huge. Today, we're going to bridge that gap. We are going beyond the code to unpack the 5 essential systems that pros use to actually engineer web apps that look and feel amazing.
You know that feeling, right? You land on a website and you can just tell it was built by a professional. It just feels solid. But what is that? What's the real, tangible difference between a pro site and one that feels, well, a little amateur? It's a question that stumps a lot of us. So, take a look at this. On the left, we've got a layout that's been eyeballed. Things are just kind of placed where they feel right at the moment. But on the right, everything is crisp, it's aligned, it's consistent. The secret isn't some magical artistic talent, it's having a system. And that, right there, is the big idea for today. Professional web design isn't magic. It's a discipline. It's a form of engineering that relies on rules and proven systems to get a great result every single time. And the best part? It's something anyone can learn. So we're going to break down the 5 systems that make it all happen. We'll start with the architectural blueprint for your layout, then we'll engineer the user's journey, make text intentional, systemize color for visual impact, and finally, we'll see how it all links back to your code. First up, the architectural blueprint. Look, pros do not guess where things go on a page. They start with a solid foundation, a blueprint that dictates the entire structure. And getting this right makes the actual coding process so much easier down the line. And this blueprint, it really stands on 3 main pillars. You've got a grid system for solid structure, a spacing system for visual rhythm, and a clear visual hierarchy to guide the user's eye exactly where you want it to go. Okay, let's start with the grid. This is absolutely foundational. Think of it like the steel frame of a skyscraper. Most pros use a 12-column grid for desktop. Now why 12? Well, because it's incredibly flexible. You can divide it by 2, 3, 4, or 6. And this system just adapts, scaling down to 8 columns on a tablet and 4 on mobile, giving you a consistent, predictable structure everywhere. Next up is spacing. Instead of just randomly picking margins and padding, pros use a system. And a super common one is the 8-point system. It just means all your spacing values are multiples of 8. It creates this clean, consistent rhythm that just feels right. And this isn't some random rule. Giants like Google and Apple use this very approach in their own design systems. And all of this leads to the final piece of the blueprint, visual hierarchy. Here's a hard truth for you. People don't read websites, they scan them. So your job is to guide their eyes. You do this with proximity, grouping related stuff together, with size, making the important things bigger, with contrast, using color or bold text to grab attention, and with alignment, creating clean lines that the eye can follow easily. Okay, a great layout is a solid start, but it's gotta have a purpose, right? That brings us to our second system, engineering the user journey. This is where we stop designing just for looks and start designing for action, connecting the visuals directly to what your app is supposed to do. And the biggest rule here is super simple. Every single page on your website needs to have just one clear goal. Is the goal to get a user to sign up, to download a file, to create a new post? If you try to do too many things at once, you just confuse people, and a confused user does nothing. Now, if you're building, say, a Flask app, this maps perfectly to the whole CRUD model. Create, read, update, and delete. Your Create page has one job. Let the user submit a new record. Your Update page has one job. Let them edit an item. This kind of thinking forces your design to be incredibly purposeful. So how do you get the user to that one goal? The answer is with clear, strategic, and very visible calls to action, your CTAs. These are your buttons, your links. Don't make people hunt for them. They need to be obvious, telling the user exactly what to do next. All right, system number 3, making text intentional. Think about it. Besides empty space, text takes up more real estate than anything else on your site. And yet, it's the one thing so many of us just eyeball. Pros use a system to make sure their typography is consistent, readable, and frankly, looks great. The pro move here is to use a type scale. This is just a set of predefined font sizes that relate to each other in a mathematical way. You start with a base size, maybe 16 pixels for your main text. And then you use a ratio to figure out the sizes for all your headings. It makes everything feel intentional. And here's a pro tip for you. Use rem units in your CSS. It makes the whole scale super easy to manage.
And hey, here's a super simple rule you can start using today for way better readability. For your main body text, set the line height to 1.5 times the font size. It's a tiny change, but it gives your text room to breathe and makes big paragraphs so much easier to read.
Let's talk color. I know this is where a lot of people get kind of overwhelmed, but here's the secret. Professional designers don't use more colors, they just use color more intentionally.
So a fantastic system to get this right is the 60-30-10 rule. 60% of your design should be your neutral colors. That's your whites, your grays, your dark tones for backgrounds and text. 30% is for your secondary color, maybe for things like info boxes or card backgrounds. And that last, critical 10%, that's your accent color. You save that for the most important things on the page, like your buttons and CTAs.
All right, a few more pro tips on color. Try to limit your palette to just 2 or 3 core colors. You can get a ton of variation just by playing with the opacity of a single color. And please, this one is non-negotiable. Check your color contrast. Accessibility is key. If people can't read your text, the design has failed, period.
All right, let's land the plane with our fifth and final system. This is where we connect all of this design thinking back to the actual code you're going to write, turning that engineered design into a real working application.
Just think of it like this. HTML is all about structure, and when you've already engineered a layout with a grid, writing your HTML becomes dead simple. Your columns, your sections, they're already defined. You're not guessing where to put your divs, you're just building the blueprint you already created.
And CSS, that's all about style. Your type scale and your 60-30-10 color system become the foundation for your CSS rules. You're not just making up styles on the fly. You're implementing the consistent rules you've already defined, which makes managing your styles, especially in a tool like Ginger 2, way simpler.
And that, really, is the whole point of this. It isn't about being born with some magical designer's eye. It's about learning and applying these systems. Mastering this engineering approach is what truly separates a beginner from a pro, no matter where you're starting from.
So, the next time you start a project, you've got a choice. Are you going to keep designing by just guessing and hoping for the best? Or are you going to start designing with intention, by engineering a result you can actually be proud of? The choice is yours.